Right, with that, it's our pleasure to invite Ms. Salome or Sally to make the first presentation. Yes, thank you.
It's a cold day inside, and I'm very happy to have this opportunity to share with you the ASEAN experience on women empowerment. And this is a work that we have done, and it's really difficult to summarize in few minutes what we have done in 17 years in ASEAN. And for today, I would like to share with you why do we have to talk about women empowerment? Perhaps it's because of the situation that we have now that women's status, political, economic, as well as social, is a little bit behind from the other sex or gender in the society. That's why we have to do some women empowerment initiatives and programs. There is women empowerment is increasing the economic, political, or social strength of women, which shall provide them equal access to ownership, management, and control of production and of material and informational resources and benefits. This is because we are in the ASEAN, we have to work within the family as well as the community and society. Women empowerment can be done in 3 dimensions. The empowerment from within, that's in the individual, personal, and empowerment from others, having a support group or people or mechanisms that will help the woman increase her potential, her participation in the society, and empowerment from the environment, wherein we have to look into the laws, the mechanisms, and social systems, and even in the financial aspect to empower a woman. How can we empower the women? In the internal dimension, it talks about building the capacity of the woman, as well as the capability on knowledge and skills. And in this regard, in this dimension, you have to empower the woman through education and training. That's why we have a lot of training and education program for the capacity building of women. The other dimension, it means outside the woman, outside the person, is raising recognition of women's rights, capacities, and capabilities. This is doing the advocacy for the empowerment of women and raising awareness about gender and about women's rights among women and also the men. Having support organizations like the banks, marketing services, corporations, business councils, government agencies, and other organizations and establishments. And these organizations should be sensitive to the needs of women. The environment dimension is looking at making the institutions in which we all function sensitive to the needs of women. It can also include the banks, corporations, and companies that we are in. And women have to have access in decision making, because it is decision making that creates the environment. I'm going to share with you 4 tools as results of our experience in the ASEAN community in empowering women. First is financial services, and this we have heard a lot since yesterday with the talks and speeches of our speakers, when they said that having financial institutions, the Islamic Development Bank, banks, corporations, microfinance institutions, credit unions, corporations can help empower the woman by having programs such as solidarity groups, building solidarity groups, establishing cooperatives, self-help organizations, savings mobilization group. Like in Cambodia, they have lots of seed banks, animal banks, and rice bank, wherein they gather all of these kind of resources together and then to lend to other people in the community who are in need. Appropriate technology is another tool, but this is to aid for income-generating activities of women and family, and community-based and uses local resources, wisdom, and potential, appropriate to the needs of the women and also the community. So we have lots of handicraft production, food technology, alternative energy, solar, biogas, and previous speakers in the different master classes have also talked about this. And in all of these mechanisms, we need to empower the woman to be able to participate in the programs, development programs that they have. Capacity or capability building, which I have discussed with you earlier, is training or capacitating the woman to catch up with technology, to catch up with the knowledge and skills that we lack, the women lack with the other sex or gender in the society. So we have women empowerment program, training and development for women, leadership development for women. You notice that what I am sharing with you would be for small and micro enterprises or groups. And it can also extend up to the micro community-based organizations. Another tool is on business management, marketing, and trading. These are support in terms of the technology and facility for women's businesses. And we have to provide business development services, the twinning or mentoring program, business counseling, marketing, trading facility, like having showroom for women's products, having e-market when we want to involve IT, or e-mall, and of course, establishing business development centers. And I'm sure that our next speaker will be able to share to us more on business development services and business counseling and mentoring as tools for empowering women. We also have to do marketing through ICT, and these are internet-based for doing business with others. And the challenge here is poor women don't have connectivity in the ASEAN community yet, in the rural areas. Unlike for big cities like Kuala Lumpur or in Singapore or in Manila, Bangkok, there is, they already have the connectivity, but in rural areas, if we are going to use marketing through ICT, it might be difficult for small business establishments of women to be able to do marketing through the ICT. And in order to do that, they have to cooperativize, to join others, to establish themselves, to make themselves bigger in order for them to do marketing through ICT. But individually, as small groups, it would be difficult because of this concern. And we have the ASEAN Foundation has established the e-mall system. And we have, for cooperatives, we have the IT at Co-ops program trying to establish connectivity through, for marketing for Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia. Now, for us to empower women, we also need to do a lot of networking and doing a lot of advocacy, because these networks and linkages support women businesses and advocating women empowerment and gender equality. So we have, in ASEAN, we have the Women Business Councils and networks. We also have the Chamber of Commerce, and there are very specific Chamber of Commerce for women established already. And the recently established by the ASEAN is the ASEAN Women Entrepreneurs Network. The ASEAN woman, as an experience, is loyal, family-oriented, the keeper of the culture and values, and also the setting up of traditional enterprises. The ASEAN woman is resilient, no matter what challenges she may face, calamities perhaps in our ASEAN countries. She's still there to survive, and she's ready to survive because she has creativeness and she's very resourceful. Therefore, empowering a woman is empowering the household and empowering the community and eventually the society. Women empowerment is a step towards gender equality. And when we say gender equality, we are talking about a situation in which women and men have the same value, equal rights, and commitment. Gender equality is a basic human right. It is also a prerequisite for sustainable development and reduced poverty. Significant impacts of gender equality in the economic growth. If we develop the women, we have expanded the human capital in corporations, in the communities. If we develop the woman, we raise labor productivity. If we develop the woman, empower the woman, we improve agricultural productivity, and we enhance gender equality that attracts investment in physical capital. These are the 4 areas in which when we do women empowerment and gender equality, it will benefit not only the individuals, but the society as well, the community and society. And I would like to end with this quote: "No nation can achieve the kind of growth that we all want and need if half of the population never gets to compete, and we cannot afford any longer to exclude the energy and talent that women add to our economies." Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Salome Ganibe, or Sally, for that presentation and sharing of these Philippines experience. And now it's our pleasure to call upon Associate Professor Dr. Madeline Berma to make her presentation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen and ladies. So I have a lot of friends here who comes just to support me, given the fact that, you know, the room is really kind of a bit empty. I understand that there's a bit of, there's a feeling that our Honorable Minister was not too happy this morning, that she said she's talking to more chairs than to individuals or human beings. I'm okay with that, because I come from the academic. There are times when my students are not there, so I only have like 3 students and 40 chairs. So I'm okay with that, and especially when it's a day, when it's a Friday at 3 p.m. So I always tell my students, for those of you who come here, they are really experts. They can come and sit with their eyes open, but they are not there. So it's fine with me. If suddenly you decide that, you know, thinking about food, because we're talking about food before this, so if you think that food is more important, it's okay. Just because you need to be here, please don't feel guilty, okay? So I will take only about 20 minutes of your time, so we can start now. So there is a big clock out there. So, okay, the title of my presentation, when I was given this topic, I was kind of apprehensive. Not because of the title, but because of the organization of this event. It is World Islamic Economic Forum. And I said, "Are you sure you're calling Madeline Berma?" He said, "Yes, we're calling you. Can you come up with this paper?" And I said, "Are you really sure?" Because, yes, I'm always invited to speak on economics or whatever it is, but hardly ever been invited to speak to an Islamic audience, or especially from an Islamic perspective, or about Islam. So, but basically, I am really honored. I feel truly honored the fact that you have invited me to share my thoughts. Okay, my name is Madeline Berma. I'm not from Myanmar. For those of you who think that, yes, in Malaysia there's a lot of Burmese, I'm not. My name is Madeline Berma. I'm from Sarawak. I really have to emphasize that, because I always have problem with that, okay? I am from the Tun Fatimah Hashim Women Leadership Center. It's a center established by the government of Malaysia. There's one center at the we call it University Kebangsaan Malaysia, or the National University of Malaysia. So it is a center. It's purely, or rather, it was established to to educate, or rather to do or conduct research on women leadership. Okay. Now, what am I supposed to do with this? I love these things. Next, I only know there's next, but it doesn't move. Okay. I will introduce myself. We'll talk a bit about what is woman empowerment, which Salome has done. You know, she has a very nice name. I thought it was Saloma. It was Salome. Sally, right? Then I'll just focus on two things. I will highlight a few things that are based on our research on women leadership that we have conducted at the university, and based on other readings that we have done. I will share with you the experiences about in ASEAN in the process of trying to develop or rather empower women. So I will identify some of the facilitating factors and what they constrains them. Oh, that's Madeline, in case so action got you all, I was in New York. There was this big conference in New York, so I need to introduce myself. Yeah, I love to wear jeans and T-shirts. So today was something very different. So yes, my education, my background is I'm from the Faculty of Economics. So it is basically an economics background. But I'm currently involved, or rather doing a lot of work with women in in leadership position. Thank you to Datuk Sri Sharizad. She established and she extended this 4 million ringgit worth of chair. They call it an endowment chair at UKM to enable us to conduct research. So these are the things that I'm going to share with you today. Now, these are the work, and I said my research and also community work. I do a lot of work also with women, and at the same time, I love to do work with the what we call in Malaysia now the B40. Suddenly, you sound like you are part of a what do you call it? B40, M40. You're branded with a number. Okay, B40 means the bottom 40, M40 means middle 40, and T20 is the top 20%. So I'm not too sure whether I am at the B40 or the M40, but nevertheless, for those of you who are not from Malaysia, that is how we categorize ourselves now. In the old days, we used to call ourselves poor and non-poor. Now it's B40, sounds like the song, yeah? B40, all right? Okay. Now, this is just to introduce to you why, why is it important for us to invest in women? Now, especially when we are talking to an audience, or rather to a program that is being organized by, or rather with a name called World Islamic Economic Forum. Something with the word Islam there is a tendency for people to think that Islam tend to discriminate women. I'm talking about tendency for people to think. We are talking about perceptions. In Malaysia, perception is a very, very big thing. The biggest problem that we are facing right now is not reality. It is how do you manage perception. So a lot of times people say that, in Islam, women are being discriminated. But I had this rare opportunity to study at University Kebangsaan Malaysia, where I have to take, or rather they call kursus wajib, or rather compulsory courses in Islamic courses. And I learn about Islam. So now I learn to differentiate between Islam and the Muslims. So my professor used to tell us, Syed Najib Alatas, he used to say, if you want to know about Islam, don't look at the Muslims. He said, so I'm just quoting him, okay? He said, especially Malay Muslim, he said, because if you want to know about Islam, he said, read the Quran, you read the Hadith, and look at the practices of whatnot. So that's what I'm doing, basically. So I have no qualms about having friends with Muslims and everything. Almost all, or rather all my bestest of friends are Muslims, okay? So we used to talk about this. I keep on asking them, I used to ask them question, what is this thing about being women in Islam? This tendency for people to think that women in Islam are being discriminated or women does not have a place in Islam. So this is a big misconception that Muslims and non-Muslims tend to have because of the way it is being portrayed in the media. The way the Muslims carry themselves, the way the Muslims look at the media, especially Malaysian media. Oh my God, yes, they wear tudung, they wear the hijab and everything else, but sometimes it is more than that. It's behavior. People like me, I'm a non-Muslim. I look at you as a Muslim. Like, for example, at 2 o'clock, when the office is supposed to open, do you open the office? Or at 2 o'clock, then you start to go and take your wudu to go for prayers, and the students are waiting until 2:30. Then you have the office on. Maybe private sector don't do that. And the kind of work that you do. So women tend to have an image. I'm from the University Kebangsaan, or rather the National University of Malaysia. Quite a big chunk of us are women there, especially we have the professors there. But if you look around, this is one of the biggest challenge in Malaysia is how do you really empower women? So this is the things that I'm going to look into. Okay, I'm being an academic, you have to define first, okay? What do you understand by women's empowerment? So according to the UN, if we can say that they are the most trusted one to define what is a woman empowerment, first, it is about self-worth. You know, there are times when we think that women don't even think that they are good enough for anything. You know, we did a study on women leadership in UKM. So when we conducted our study, we did a survey. We asked them, are you willing to take up a post at the top position? Oh, they said, no. We don't mind being number 2, but not number 1. So these are issues that we really have to deal with. You know, we're talking about empowerment here and there. Suddenly, when the task is given to a woman, they will give you thousands of excuses. You know why? Because they said, maybe I'm not good enough. Or number 2, this is what we call the Cinderella complex. You know, they just want to look good, but they're not good enough to be at number 1 there. Or what sometimes we call, or do they face what we call the glass ceiling? And we know that the glass ceiling is not just one glass ceiling. You know, what women have to face, they have to face many, what we call the labyrinth now. We don't call it glass ceiling, because you have to break so many glasses. Can you imagine? It's like the Greek, wedding. You have to break all these glasses. So what we're saying here is that women must know that if you are given the task, so meaning to say people think that you are in that position and you are able to take it, so that's why they're giving you that position, and not play this very typical Malay or rather Iban and say, no, I'm really not good, I'm really not good, like you go and give this to Mamat or, any man who can do it. I'm okay with number 2. They don't mind doing number 2 because of the thing. But of course, on one hand, that's cultural. On the other hand, because you are not supposed to say yes for the first time when people offer you. When people say, Madeline, please go and eat, please help yourself with the food. Being Iban, I will immediately go and take it. The Malays will give excuses, maybe 10 excuses, no lah, I'm full lah, blah, 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 but actually they wanted to have it. We Iban never refuse. Before people finish offering us, we say, yes, I don't mind. Can I have all of that? So I will have all the servings. So please don't ever offer an Iban anything, okay? So the Malays, this is something, this is part of the culture. It's very cultural. And I think Indian also, Jiva? Probably. So they must learn from the Iban sometime. And we Iban are very aggressive people. Okay, rights to have and to determine choices. So it is about the choice. What we need here when we talk about empowerment, if you choose to stay at home, it is your choice. And if it is a woman who chooses to go and work and wanted to have a place in the workplace, it is her choice. So it is about choices. That's why when we say poverty, the thing about poverty, I've been doing a lot of work on poverty. When a poor person does not eat, it's because they don't have anything to eat. But when rich people, the T20, they don't eat, it's because they have to go on diet and things like that. And I mean, it's a choice. But for the poor, it's not a choice. It's just like they say, there is so much fruit on a rich man's table. Whereas if you compare to, there is so much fruit on a rich man's shampoo. Okay? Man or women, rich man's shampoo compared to what is there on a poor man's table. Remember that? The next time you use your shampoo, you remember how much, fruits are there compared to what the poor have, okay? Now, very sentimental when it comes to the poor. Now, your right to have access to opportunities, resources, the right to have power to control their own lives. If they choose to have babies, but of course, in our country, when it comes to abortion, that's another thing, I mean, is it really a choice or is it something that you really have to go into that? But it is about choices, when you're not, does a woman really have a choice when it comes to, I used to have this in my ethics class. I know euthanasia, when you have to, when somebody is on a life support, is it okay for you to pull out the life support system and let them die? Or, do you allow them to be on support system? So these are ethic issues, okay? And ability to influence the direction of social change in the community. So these are the definitions. Now, these are some of the things that when you reduce inequality and we empower women, these are some of the things where we are talking about the Millennium Development Goals. And soon, we're coming up with the new Sustainable Development Goals, Millennium Development Goals. So when you empower women, when a society empowers women, actually, as what was rightly mentioned just now, we are building not only an individual, you are also building a community and above all, the nation. So that's very, very important, right? Now, I would like to share with you a bit about when we were doing this research about women. So what I did was I took 3 individuals, but I'm just giving examples. They're not the only ones that I studied. I chose one lady. She's a very young lady from Cambodia. She did a lot of blogging. So because these are the very, very young ones. She came from Cambodia. She went through this process of, going through the family went through a very difficult period during the war and things like that. And then, Malaysians will know her, Mrs. Bupalan, the one who fought for equal rights, equal pay in Malaysia. If a Malaysian woman does not know Mrs. Bupalan, I think they should take away the wages that they're getting right now. She fought for equal rights in terms of equal pay for, especially teachers at that time. And the third one, there is a program in Indonesia, they call it Yayasan Pendamping Wanita Usaha Kecil, which is for SMEs. Now, they are just examples that we choose, but I'm not going to focus on them. What I'm going to focus in the last 2 slides is what are the factors that facilitate women empowerment. First, the mentioned just now, you need to have organization. You can't just walk. You can't just work alone. Organizations are very important. NGOs, you must be part of a program. We Iban don't have that problem because we live in long houses. So it's a very, very cultural thing. Even without anything, we will form groups. So even I go makan, I will always call my gang. So it's a very gang thing kind of thing. So we must form groups. So it's nothing new for women. Women are very easy to bond. When you meet them up, they can organize even do zapin and menari zapin. Even that for Hari Kebangsaan, they can also do that. And they take selfies, a lot of that. Okay? Another thing is the cultural context. We must do programs, in order for us to empower women, you must take cognizance of the culture. For Muslims, there are things that they can and they cannot do. And therefore, other ethnic or in other ASEAN, you must also understand what is it that they can and they cannot do. Then women must work with men. You cannot say that, this is only women's thing, so we don't want men around, So we need them as much as they needed us, okay? So availability of support system, it was rightly mentioned by Salome just now. We need the support system. We need all these programs, And then using existing structure, don't try to create something new. Build on what is already there, We love, to like in my university, it's all this muscle flexing. You tubuh this jatong kuasa committee members so that somebody will become the chairperson. So you have a car park. Oh, I love that. Because in the university, we have a difficult time getting parking lots. So the moment you become head of a committee, then you get to have this privilege. So there are some reasons why we do that. And then, of course, women leadership. We need to develop women leaders. And this is where the tricky issue in Islamic countries. There's always this question: are women allowed to become leaders? And I've learned from my friends from Sharia, they said there is nothing wrong, if you are among women. The only difficult thing is when you have to lead a prayer and there are men there. So she said there is a lot of discussion going on right now in the Islamic world whether they are allowed or they are not allowed. But let's not go into it. But we're talking about women leadership, and women are capable leaders. So in Malaysia, we even have this quota called 30. No, it's not a quota. It is a kind of a government policy whereby they encourage about 30% of women to be in the top decision-making position. So we have training programs, we have a lot of activities to ensure that women, more than 30% of them will hold this, what we call top decision-making position. Networking, that was already mentioned by Salome. Media coverage, please give them good media coverage. I mean, when you look at media coverage, women are always being portrayed, there's always about cooking. And then now of late, it's about hijab, tudung hijab. Oh my God. Online business, 99%, everybody goes into online. It's good, no problem. But sometimes you need to swim, like we said, blue ocean, you have to swim somewhere away. Everybody, this is also another Malaysian thing, when one person do hijab, tudung hijab, everybody will do it. It's just like buah jambu tanpa biji, buah jambu tiada biji, no jambu, no biji. Seedless jambu, but it's the same thing. So it's very Malaysian. We love to follow, so this is the problem. And then policy climate, it's very important, the one that we said, I mentioned just now, in Malaysia, in ASEAN, we do have this support. And for my last slide, what are the things that from our analysis, we found that have resulted in constraining. So I'm already past my 3 minutes. Heavy workload of women. Women are just superwoman. They're not even Superman. Superman, at least, when he flies, he only has 2 functions. Women, they can do they are really multitaskers. They can cook, they can answer the phone, they do it this way, and they can membebel to the anak at the same time. 3 things at one time. And if you give them a job to do, they will tell you they will be able to do it. No matter what is the deadline, they will be able to do it. That's why they're good at being number 2. That's why bosses love to have women. But we need to change that. We cannot have that all the time. Now it's high time for men to also learn from women how to do multitasking. Men, no, they complete a job first. So if they wanted to do something, they say, can we just complete this first? Women, no, they can do it, everything. They can give instruction, have the headboard, if possible, they will use that headgear and everything, you know. So another thing is women isolation from each other. These are things that they can hinder. Another 3, illiteracy. Maybe in ASEAN, there are still communities that are illiterate. And traditional values that think that women should not be leaders or women should not participate in public space, in public life. The concept of hijab, you know, that they should not be seen. So even in university now, a lot of our students are already wearing, what do you call it? The one that covers here. So it's very difficult during exam time because they have to produce their cards to show that is it really them. So, you know, and then problem of funding, and then disagreement or conflict among women's group. Oh my God, I've heard so many of this, but I don't think it should only be seen as a conflict. There are times they are seen to be something that is positive for you to move on. And finally, negative and sensational coverage of the media. And we know when, this is also one of the things that I learned from my research, is that when it comes to media coverage, especially when you are a woman in position, oh my God, they can really, really tear you down. You know, maybe if it is a man, probably the coverage is slightly different. But if it is a woman, they bring you down, they bring your family down, they bring whatever that you have there. No, instead of being very, very, what we call supportive or whatever it is. So these are some things that I have shared with you. So thank you very much. And that's my name, Madeline, and that's my email. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Madeline, and I have just become Facebook friends, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, very interesting, very animated, and we'd like to open the session to the floor for any questions that you may have. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Shams. I'm from Singapore. I run an online creative media suite for food places in Singapore. So that's the business. But the social enterprise part of my business is that we only work with women because we deal a lot of with industries or jobs that are normally for men. We have a coder, we have a web designer, we have an app developer, we have a business manager, and we have photographers with us, and as well as video editors and video women, I mean. So these are the industries that ladies are very shy, but they have interest in. So for us, we created this company to facilitate them. And a lot of our work, a lot of those who are working with us, they are either stay-at-home moms who have studied or whatever that's in line with our business. And we support them on a part-time basis. And at the same time, however, I agree with you, Dr. Berma, that there is some sort of limitation to their empowerment. And I'm just wondering is this because of a lack of a ground-up initiative? Because as much as, in the team, I'm the only one who's single, the rest of them are all married. So my decisions are always different from my partner's decisions. Maybe because I'm not married yet, and I don't have someone overshadowing and influencing my decisions. So is it because of the fear that there's a stigma associated with the word feminist or woman empowerment? It's a nicer term for feminism, I suppose. And like how Taylor Swift can't write songs about the numerous men she dated, but it's okay for John Mayer to do so for the women he dated. So is there a social stigma associated right across, the whole of ASEAN, per se?
As I have mentioned in my presentation, that the ASEAN woman is very traditional, and she carries with her the culture and tradition. And we believe that these are limitations as well in doing women empowerment program. Because if you look at our culture, we look at our tradition, and even religious faith, there are some stigmas or limitations. And I think that is what we have to break. We have to do something about it. That's why we have to do advocacies, we have to do some modeling, and getting all these experiences in order to show to our community, to our society, that we have to do something for women empowerment in order for them to be have gender equality. I have always been an advocate in women empowerment first, and for us to be able to attain gender equality.
Thank you. Let me just respond this differently. Now, at the university, initially in the 80s or in the 90s when I first started, we don't have any foreign students coming in. Now, of late, we have a lot of women from the Middle East coming in. So they bring a different kind of dynamics and dimension. And the way they ask questions about women in Malaysia in particular, or ASEAN for that matter, they find that in this side of the world, they said the Muslim women are a bit different. You know the word a bit different. Now, let's take Malaysia, for example. Who would have thought that you will have a bank negara or the central bank who is a woman, or women heading positions, very high positions in the government sector or even in the private sector. So now you're telling us about how you are going even into this online business in areas which women have not been into. Now, if you look at Malaysia of late, I know some of the members of the Peniagawati and everything, if you look at their members, it's really interesting. Some of them are going into businesses that I've never thought of. Like, for example, one of them, she graduated from optometrist, but she went into this business selling or producing, or rather spare parts for cars and sport rims. And I said, what? You're doing sport rim? I would imagine her selling to dog, I am also such a stereotype. So, and then I do know of a woman, I just met her 2 days ago, she's supplying arms, arms. Machine guns and whatever. She asking me, do you want one, Madeline? I said, no, I'm contented with just sumpit. I'm okay already. Just because I said I cannot imagine a woman doing that. But what I'm trying to say here is that Malaysian women, or rather ASEAN women, we have moved a bit away from the traditional role. So I'm glad that you are going into this area where, like you mentioned just now, it's not really something that where women are supposed to be. In the old days, it's always related to food. It's always about baking, about cakes, or money. Money is what beads. So if you look at our government programs, most of the government programs are still a bit stereotyped in a sense that they will provide programs that are going towards food production and that. So, but Malaysia, let me just allow you just 1 second, is that we are very much into this STEM thing, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics or medicine. So women are now supposed to go into that. So our universities, we are really focusing and increasing the number of intakes into that areas, so that we want to break this, so that we cannot be saying that you guys are taking our position, or you guys you men are taking our space. Now, what we're saying here, we develop you go to the universities, you go into medical school, you go into engineering school, and in fact, women are getting more of them in those kind of non-traditional courses. Thank you.
Yes, question here.
Hello, there's one of the probably very few men in the room. Arif Zaman, I'm one of the directors of the Commonwealth Business Women's Network.
Oh, okay.
The only guy who's a director, but I think I wanted to bring up this point about engaging men is absolutely crucial. There's a very interesting initiative in Australia, which you may be aware of, called Male Champions of Change, where basically the government has partnered with the leading CEOs in the country and driven over the last 4 years significant developments in terms of workplace policies and also an advocacy group of these male CEOs. We're now picking that up at a Commonwealth level. So I think that's an example of what could be used. I think on the STEM, I think there's a very interesting, I want to get your thoughts on this. The question is around, if we think about STEM, we can get into these circular arguments because we still use the same arguments, the same reasoning. But I think one of the things that came out of some work that we did in Australia, working with India and Papua New Guinea recently at the Commonwealth, was looking at not at STEM, but STEAM. So you bring the A into the equation.
Okay. And what is
Okay,
it?
and A is arts, yeah? But we think about arts not as a narrow band, but as a broad band. Arts and technology, arts and innovation, arts in terms of creative mindset, not just creative industries. And I think that then opens up much more space because we have service-based economies now growing with women being, more areas of participation. So interested in your thoughts on that. The last thing is on procurement. I think we need to get real, and we need to do it urgently with women's economic empowerment because we don't have a lot of time. We have young populations, that's not always going to be the same in many countries. So procurement is one example. It's a great shame that Anna Guru from the government of Kenya wasn't here this morning because if she had been here as a speaker, I mean, she wasn't able to make it at the last minute, she would have talked about the 30% policy in Kenya where they target public procurement for women-owned businesses. So I think procurement as a lever for women's economic empowerment, I'd be very interested to get your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love the things that you shared with us here today. Allow me to respond to that. Okay, the thing about, like you mentioned, the A that you need to include in that is something that the Malaysian government or other people at the top management must look into. I must share with you is that the arts has no place anymore in the university. That's really sad. Because in our drive to become a developed nation, I'm not saying it's a direct policy or rather intentionally done, but we are talking about marketability. We're talking about graduate employability. Who wants to take a graduate with a Bahasa Malaysia? They're only good to be in school. That's how people look at it now. And if you look at all the journals, the university, it is all about STEM. So the arts if you look around I'm not too sure about other countries, but people like us at the university, we find that we are being marginalized in terms of the knowledge building. So now that you brought that, the fact that we need, instead of just STEM, just put another, I would love to tell that to my Vice Chancellor or even to the Minister himself or herself, Okay, that's on STEM. And the other thing you were mentioning about the 30% on the procurement. Recently, I was invited by a group of women who are in politics. So they wanted to have my thoughts on, because they are in they are in the incumbent political party, but it's a big, there's a big women's group there. They have a big women's wing. However, when it comes to economics, they always get the crumbs from the table. Meaning to say, when it comes to economic policies or economic projects or programs, they find that it's only when the men couldn't get, they just put aside for them. Now, when you put the concept of procurement there and make it into a policy, then I think that is really something it can really change the way in terms of ownership of their position in and their role in the economy, especially the formal economy. Because women mostly they dominate the informal economy. You go anywhere in Kuala Lumpur, you find that a lot of our women, or even ASEAN for that matter, women are everywhere in the informal economy. So in fact, another thing that I want to highlight is about why it just sort of just came across my mind. We were already discussing in the last budget, in the government budget, why is there no security for women in the informal sector? Because many of the women who are in the informal sector, they come from the B40, the lower income category. Number two, a lot of women from the, the one who are single mothers, many of them find refuge in the informal sector. Now, if anything happened to them, there is no social security for them. So we were toying with this idea, talking to insurance companies, but of course they are not bankable. They are not people that why should we, spend our time on this woman? So let's focus on the, the women in the formal sector. But that's something that I'm quite sentimental about. But I don't know how to go about with it because we have just been discussing this with a few friends in the insurance company because we can't be relying on government to just give handouts. Because in Malaysia now, the issue of handouts is really, really a big problem. And I'm sure in other ASEAN countries, that is also another thing. Sorry, taking too long to answer. It's very lengthy. Okay?
Sally, you want to respond to that?
A woman is a natural entrepreneur. And anything that she would want to develop is always based on a woman's need or household need. So that leads her to be creative, innovative, and to develop her own business. So I would say that, but the business that she would develop would be small, so she would need support from other mechanisms or systems that would allow to support her. And in here, in developing programs, women empowerment program, we need to involve the perspective of a woman and also the needs of a woman, because that would be good for marketing. Well, anyway, half of our communities are women and half of the market are also women.
Can I just share one small experience in Malaysia? We have this program what they do training for women to enter the top 30%. So for women, it is almost kind of, they require them to attend this course. Then the next question is, they have already organized this course. There are so many women already who have entered. All of them waiting to enter all these top positions, but the positions are left. There's still men who dominate this position. So the government now comes up with another program, or rather it's more initiated from the bottom. They call it the 30% Club, whereby companies, big multinationals and what they call GLCs, government-linked companies, they sign agreements to say that we will allocate 30% to women. So that is something in terms of what you call public initiatives, government policies, trying in Malaysia, trying to enforce this to ensure that women are visible, or not only just visible, but really there. They don't want women to be there just because they need to fill it up with a woman. So not women would say, I don't want to be there just because I am a woman. I want to be there because I'm good, I am capable and everything. So I think that is very, very important.
Okay, one final question maybe? Anybody? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I've heard only the last speaker, Madeline. Very interesting research.
And you are?
I'm from UPM.
Oh, okay. My neighbor.
Yeah. We have done some work with the women in the bottom 40.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have found that we have many support systems in Malaysia, but many of these support systems are not holistic program. You give them money, they can produce. What then? And we have found that many of these women, in terms of production, there is no problem at all. You give them the facilities, they will do the production. But then we also need them, train them in marketing, in some other programs, so that they can grow. And I think that is what is lacking in our program in our country. We have many, even the banks, even the the financial organization, to help them with the production in agriculture, in some other industries, but beyond production, we do not have the support program, right? So maybe in your research you may find something different. I don't know.
Thank you. I love the slides that you shared just now about the tools that you need to empower women, which is very, very good. Now, allow me to share a bit of my little experiences in terms of doing research with the bottom 40 and especially with women. Now, we have this my background is I come from development economics. The word that we use here is that we seldom use the word we and them. We have this really very funny way of looking at, we know, they don't know, so it's our responsibility to help them. Now, if you look at government, a lot of government programs and a lot of government officers who are involved in supporting or helping women or the bottom 40, they themselves have never even sold a single product. And they will go to this makcik or to these ladies and telling them, giving them all the business plan, and then they can just turn around and say, what have you sold in your life? So for me, now we need to change that. That's why we need to engage NGOs who are really engaged in women in business. You are right. If you look at the number of support system, government policies, government programs in Malaysia, the amount of money spent to bring the programs to the participants is even more. The kind of claims they claim, the amount. Sometimes they just need to bring 20 chickens. To get these ladies to come up with a project. The amount to bring that chicken, You know, first the officer has to be there. After that, the minister has to cut the ribbon. After that, and everything. And finally, the 20 chicken, when we researchers come to investigate, they slaughtered the chicken, and we have the chicken. So there goes poverty, and there goes. But what I'm trying to say, the government has done a lot. Yes, I'm not denying. However, what I mean, as based on my research, I would like to see not only just the government doing it. Let it be the triple helix thing. Get the NGOs to participate, because there's so many. Like today, we have so many peniagawati. You know, I mean, these people have been really involved in business. We don't need government officers. Let them do what they're good at. Doing the bureaucracy. That's why they blame. They start blaming that this participant, we have given them this, we gave them 20,000, we gave them blah, 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 blah. See what happened? They cannot even sell it. But look at ourselves. How many, telur masin have I sold? And yet I'm teaching, PhD in economics, telling my student about, entrepreneurship. So that's the reality. I'm not too sure about in the Philippines. That's why I love having with the NGOs, frankly. The NGOs and the, what they call the business community, if we are talking about empowering economically women. So I'm not saying the government is wrong. They are good at what they are, provide policies, create conducive environment. If they need to give grants, no problem. But, when you start having this kind of attitude, saying that, we have done this for you, see what happened? We give you 1,000. See what happened? Come back. Nothing much. So that's my take on it. I'm quite critical in that sense.
Any closing?
Quickly,
Yeah.
when we give funds or financial support, we always have to complement it with technology, capacity building, and business development services. It's always complementation. It's always the business development service that complements financial service, financial engagements with these women.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm afraid I have to end this session here. It's a subject also very close to me, because my wife, as Prof knows, that is very an activist herself.